Blog Talk Radio.
You are now online with Andrea, with your host, Andrea Garrison.
Welcome. You are now online with Andrea here on Blog Talk Radio. Tonight we are featuring a couple of the participants in the Hay House program, I Can Do It Ignite. It is a conference that will be introducing the new emerging generation of leaders. And this special program features 29 transformational leaders. And tonight we will speak with 3 participants. And the 3 participants are Michael Chase, Mira Kelley, and Agapi Sassanopoulos. And first we have with us Mira Kelley. How are you this evening?
Hello, Andrea. It's such a pleasure to be speaking with you.
And it's a pleasure having you. I mean, you have such a special story. If you could just briefly tell us, give us a little bit of your background. I know we're going to have you back for a more extensive interview, but if you could tell us a little bit about your background and your work with past life regression, and how did you get into that?
Sure. I got into it when I was little. I was 13 years old when I had my very first regression, and it was a very powerful emotional experience. And then, life kept on going for me. And in my late 20s, I had a very painful physical condition. And after a year of trying to cope with it through the standard, normal things that people advise you to do, I was faced with either having an operation or learning to live with, a tremendous pain. And neither sounded appealing. So I was really desperate for a solution, and that's when I remembered the regression I did as a little child. And I had an instantaneous physical healing just by reviewing another life I have lived at another time. And that's really the beauty of the work that I do, that when people connect with other lifetimes, with other experiences they have had, they're able to bring such understanding and healing and transformation that really they find themselves in a completely new place of just having a better life and having released years of emotional baggage and having received guidance on how to continue forward. So it's really a magical work, and I'm so glad I'm speaking with you about it because I love talking about past life regressions.
I can tell you're very passionate about your work. You truly, truly love it. And it's just wonderful just listening to you talk about it. Now, why do you say that regardless, past, present, or future, that all is occurring in this present moment? If you could explain that.
Absolutely. This is something that was revealed to me through the work, through the regressions I have done with my clients, because you see, this is really a very novel understanding. Up to now, everybody in the hypnosis regression field they have been considering lives to be linear, flowing one after another. And the work that I have done has allowed me to understand that actually lives are simultaneous. So if you were to think about a line, we would usually think of past lives as a straight line going from one life to another to another.
Right.
But if you were to think of those lives as stacked on top of each other, that's a way to think of them as happening at the same time. And because they're happening at the same time, the lives are exploring similar issues. And by connecting with these other lifetimes, we see how they have been handled and are being handled in these other existences. resistances, and that's the moment of learning, and that's the moment of, oh, now I understand, now I see I'm a different person. I can do things differently. I choose to do things differently. And that is such a powerful moment of release and transformation.
It's funny. I was thinking as I was listening to you speak, that a lot of people like to explore a lot of different things, but you could really spend a large part of your life in this life just exploring your own life.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I have done many regressions during my life since that occasion when I told you I had my physical condition be healed through a regression. And every time I do a regression, it's always appropriate. The experience I have is always appropriate, always guiding, always giving me what I'm looking for to continue forward. And the reason for that is, for one, we are eternal. We have lived so many lifetimes, and so there's always more to explore, just like you said. But also, in the moment we use this tool of regression, what is given to us is always appropriate and divinely orchestrated for what is to support us in that moment, to give us what we need in that exact moment.
Now, can anyone go through regression? I mean, are there certain personalities where it would be difficult for them to do that, or
no?
Is it possible for someone to be so into the present or afraid that they can't go back, or how does that all work?
I believe that everybody is able to experience regressions, and it's really such a gentle and beautiful process. There's nothing jarring or scary about it. And even if a person experiences a lifetime where there was trauma, because there are those experiences where people have gone through traumatic things, and if they were to connect with them, it's always done with the feeling of we're just learning from it. Let the tears flow, let the emotions be there. It's not like, a horror movie that people go and see without there being a point to it, right, just for the point of being scared. So even if a person experiences something that makes them feel comfortable, it serves a greater purpose, and then once they come out of the session, they see the point of it. They see how it all fits into who they are. So that right there takes away some of the fear people have about what is this experience like. And beyond that, like I said, it's really just a very gentle and very simple state of relaxation and going within, because the moment we relax, allow the input from our senses.
Now, would you say,
is
it easier to look at others and understand others, or easier to understand yourself? Which is more challenging?
I have to tell you, it's of course always very interesting to explore others, right? That's why we're always involved in such incredible and interesting relationships.
Right.
But the exploration of oneself is the most rewarding and fulfilling thing that could ever happen, because every experience is always very empowering. Every connection with another lifetime is always very empowering and brings you in a better place of knowing your strengths and your beauty.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I had a feeling you were going to say that, but so how does one transform their life through regression? What's the whole process like if someone wants to do that?
What I do with clients, and I have also put out a guided regression recording for people who cannot see me in person to do this. What happens is I really allow the person to go into a very comfortable and relaxed state, and once the person is relaxed, the images, the information, everything is already there. It's just a matter of is slowing down the input from the external world and going within. And once there, the information is there, and we are able to explore and experience. And something very beautiful that I do with my clients is after they relive these lifetimes, I guide them into connecting with their higher self. And that's the place and the time with my clients, and also on this recording that I mentioned to you, this guided regression, where I have people receive guidance from their higher self, angels, on questions they have, where they are today in this life, in this moment, and healing of physical conditions. So it's really a very thorough and very deep work.
So how can you tell the difference between, say, your imagination and a real past life experience? You know, when you're going through the regression, I would imagine that the imagination could, or your mind could kind of confuse you, because you could be imagining things that you'd like to see. You know what I mean? Versus what is real.
I take an approach where I tell people imagine freely, because what happens is imagination sometimes is the pulling into the story, the moment of that bridge that brings you into the story, the crossing into the story. I can think of a few stories of sessions I have done with people where they started with imagination, and they said to me, Mira, what I'm seeing is imagination. I can tell you I'm imagining it. And yet I would encourage them, and I would tell them, tell me more, and they'll talk to me and they'll describe, and then all of a sudden everything will change. They'll be in a different place in a different time. So imagination sometimes is that moment that brings us into the experience, because it simply allows for the images to flow, the information to flow, because it's very much like electricity. Unless you plug in, you don't have electricity flowing. So it's that moment of flow that allows, that imagination allows for. And from there on, the way you know that a regression is a real experience is simply by the emotions. The emotions feel so strong, the connection feels so strong that no one would ever be able to come and tell you this was imagined. And that's really what I experienced during my very first regression as a child. It was such an incredibly powerful experience that, no one could ever come and tell me that was not real, It just feels right. It feels emotionally real and right.
You know what I find amazing is that you were able to take yourself through the regression yourself.
I have to tell you, I had guidance in that. I read a book by a person named Brian Weiss, and I'm so proud to call him my teacher and mentor. And on the back of the book, there was a guided script. So what I did as a kid, I was so intrigued by reading this book and by the possibilities that regression holds for emotional and physical healing, and that I decided to see what it is, because I was so curious. And I recorded the script on a tape, because back then it was tapes, and
right.
I played the tape to myself, and that's really what guided me. And so it was that moment of guidance that allowed me to simply relax into the experience and allow for it. And that's what I do with my clients. I'm their guide, or with the guided regression that I have put out, I'm again their guide, so the person can just simply relax into the experience and allow for it.
Yeah, that's beautiful work that you do. So I look forward to interviewing you again.
Thank
and getting more details on your work. If you would just stay on the line, it looks like, can you please give your website for those?
Sure.
Yes.
It's Mira Kelley, MiraKelley.com. That's how people can find me and learn more about my work.